Hello, welcome to the Bella Infidelity Stories channel, a place where we present genuine narratives filled with surprising turns. If you appreciate the video, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. It truly supports the growth of our channel. Now let's immerse ourselves in the narrative. Navigating the streets of the city in my cab had turned into a familiar pattern. It lacked elegance, yet it sufficed. I enjoyed the freedom to choose my own schedule without anyone hovering over me. I had thought about exploring other paths in life, yet at 30 it didn't weigh heavily on my mind. I found myself without a partner, children, or even a significant other. My life was straightforward. I felt a sense of satisfaction. Richard and I were once the best of friends, always together in those days gone by. We have a long history from high school, constantly finding ourselves in trouble together, sharing those late-night conversations about everything and nothing at all. I was the more daring one, the one who would pull him into mischief. But he was a decent fellow. He consistently supported me, even when it might not have been the wisest choice. Yet, at some point in our journey, we began to part ways. Richard entered into marriage, began a family, and I held that in high regard. I didn't want to be the person who constantly distracted him from his duties. He was consistently present whenever I required support, yet I wasn't inclined to impose my carefree single existence upon him. It was simply how events unfolded. It seems that Richard has been quite silent over the past year. It was not a matter of personal feelings. He was surrounded by his family, while I was immersed in my own pursuits. I was indifferent. That was existence. One evening I found myself parked at the curb, anticipating a ride request. The clock struck midnight, casting a serene hush over the mostly deserted streets. The city exuded that unmistakable ambiance of a late night, tranquil, as if each person had retreated into their own private realm. The vibration of my phone jolted me from my reverie. I thought it was merely a new ride request. But when I looked down, I noticed a message from Olivia, Richard's mother. For a brief moment I came to a halt. Olivia and I did not share a close bond. Indeed, I had encountered her on several occasions throughout the years. She was consistently warm whenever our paths crossed, yet we weren't precisely close in the texting department. Thus, encountering her name on my screen was quite a surprise, to put it mildly. The message was opened by me. It was an image. I blinked and rubbed my eyes, uncertain if my vision was deceiving me. The image captured Olivia poised before a gym mirror, clad in her workout attire. Her smile radiated authenticity and assurance. She was embodying something deeper. She was proudly displaying what I could only assume was a recent achievement. Her physique was sculpted, athletic. It was evident that she had been dedicating herself to the task. The gym was more than a fleeting fascination for her. She had carved out a segment of her existence. Yet, the photo held an undeniable allure. Her gaze at the camera was bold, challenging anyone to doubt her self-assurance. It was captivating. I couldn't quite pinpoint why this felt distinct. It wasn't merely a mother sharing a progress photo with her son's former companion. It was an experience beyond words, a feeling that lingered in the silence. Just as I was beginning to delve deeper into my thoughts, my phone buzzed once more. A call had come through. Olivia was making a call. For just a fleeting moment I paused before responding. "Hey," I said, making an effort to sound relaxed. I had no idea what was coming my way. "What are your thoughts on this?" she inquired, her tone fluid, nearly playful. I ran my fingers through my hair, feeling uncertain about how to reply. I found myself uncertain about what she sought. Was it admiration, affirmation, or perhaps something entirely different? I thought it best to maintain simplicity. Text, "You look fantastic, Olivia. I remarked, making an effort to maintain a steady tone. Honestly, the gym is really making a difference for you. Her laughter was gentle, yet it carried a distinct air of assurance. Thank you. I've been putting in a lot of effort. I was in search of some inspiration, you know. Her words resonated with me in a way I hadn't anticipated. Her tone carried an unspoken depth, suggesting there was more beneath the surface of her words. Her conversation extended far beyond the confines of the gym. She spoke of her life, her decisions, and the transformations she had been embracing. It seemed intimate. Took a brief moment to decipher the underlying meaning. Absolutely, I can understand that perspective. Absolutely yielding results. A brief pause lingered on the other end, a silence that carried an electric tension. You know, she continued, I was reflecting on how long it's been since we last connected. How about we meet for a coffee sometime? I've discovered a fantastic location. I arched an eyebrow, casting a quick look at the clock. The hour was growing late, yet there was an ease to her invitation that felt instinctive. It wasn't a frantic grab for recognition. It seemed as though she truly desired to rekindle the connection. Absolutely, I replied without a moment's pause. At what time and in which location? Her smile resonated through the phone, a sound I could almost feel. If you have some time tomorrow, I'll send you the details. Her words carried a certain weight, an unspoken depth that lingered in the air. The coffee invitation held deeper intentions than mere friendliness. A feeling stirred within me, and for the first time in ages, curiosity washed over me. I had no clear idea of the destination, yet I was determined to see it through. I concluded the conversation, reclining in my chair and gazing through the windshield. I found myself somewhat surprised, yet I couldn't ignore the truth of the situation. I eagerly anticipated tomorrow's arrival. The following day unfolded as expected, bustling yet monotonous, characterized by the familiar cycle of navigating the streets, collecting passengers, and anticipating new ride requests. Yet today felt distinct in a way that was hard to define. Olivia's message lingered in my mind, along with the snippets of our fleeting conversation. Her invitation for coffee caught me off guard, leaving me uncertain whether to tread carefully or simply embrace the moment. Yet, I couldn't help but sense that this gathering held more significance than a mere reunion of old acquaintances. It had a unique quality. As the clock struck the hour we had settled on, I paused my cab app for a moment and navigated into the parking lot of the cafe she had suggested. This place was entirely new to me. A serene little nook, hidden from the hustle and bustle of the main thoroughfares. A hidden gem that might escape your attention unless you're actively seeking it out. I arrived ahead of time, so I reclined in my seat and bided my time. Only when I spotted Olivia approaching the cafe did the weight of my nerves truly hit me. She wore jeans, a simple blouse and a jacket, yet managed to appear effortlessly polished. The mother I once knew seemed to have vanished without a trace. This was no longer the same woman who would whip up cookies and send us off to our next adventure with a warm embrace. This was an entirely different individual, a person whose familiarity still eluded me. Her smile lit up the moment as she waved, her inviting demeanor instantly calming my nerves. However, it was evident that this encounter held deeper significance than mere camaraderie. I rose to my feet as she drew near, and we shared a fleeting, slightly uncomfortable embrace. "Hey, Ryan," she said, stepping away. "Thank you for your presence." "Certainly," I responded, attempting to maintain a casual demeanor, yet within me my heart was beating just a bit quicker than normal. We entered together, discovered a table by the window, and placed our drink orders. It struck me how effortless it was to be in her presence, how smoothly our conversation flowed. Every moment flowed seamlessly, with no awkward breaks or uneasy quietness. We just had a conversation concerning all matters. Initially, the dialogue remained within comfortable boundaries. We reviewed the fundamentals, reflecting on her life post-divorce, sharing updates on my work situation, and discussing Richard's adaptation to family life. As the seconds passed, I began to perceive a shift in Olivia's gaze directed towards me. Her smile transcended mere friendliness. It carried a hint of intimacy. Just a bit more understanding. As we discussed her recent experiences at the gym, she leaned in a bit, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. "I've been feeling quite well lately, you know," she remarked, her voice soft. "The exercise routines, the nutrition plan, all of it. I sense a greater confidence, a heightened sense of vitality. I sense that I've discovered something meaningful for me, not merely for Richard or anyone else." I acknowledged the change in her tone with a nod. I had known her for years, yet the woman sitting across from me felt entirely different. Yet, inexplicably, I found myself unable to divert my gaze. "It certainly appears that you've discovered something," I remarked, my tone now softer. Olivia locked eyes with me, and in that fleeting moment, it seemed as though the bustling world beyond the cafe vanished into nothingness. A moment of silence enveloped us, a palpable tension lingering in the air. The tension was palpable, as if we both understood the potential of this moment, and neither of us was ready to retreat. She was the one to shatter the stillness, her voice gentle yet distinct. "I've been reflecting on this for some time now, Ryan, regarding the dynamics between us and the emotions I have for you." My heart raced with excitement. I found myself uncertain about her true meaning, yet there was an instinctive sense that her words hinted at something beyond mere camaraderie. I inhaled deeply, seeking to find my balance. "I'm uncertain about your meaning," I replied, maintaining a calm tone. "Well, we're just friends, aren't we?" Olivia hesitated before responding. Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with an intensity that was hard to ignore. "Indeed, companions," yet she let her voice fade, allowing the word to linger in the atmosphere. "You're different from the person I once knew, Ryan. And I've changed as well." Uncertainty hung in the air as she spoke, her words weaving a tapestry of topics, perhaps the gym, her divorce, or something more profound. Yet, an undeniable sensation coursed through me, hinting that a pivotal change was on the horizon for us. "I've transformed, Ryan," she went on, "and I believe you've transformed as well. We have evolved from who we once were in our youth, and perhaps it's time to cease the facade that everything remains unchanged." Her words lingered in the atmosphere, charged with a sense of provocation. And in that moment, I realized she was extending more than just an invitation for coffee. She presented me with a decision, one that filled me with uncertainty, yet it was a path I felt compelled to explore. "I'm not pretending anything," I asserted, my voice steady, yet within me turmoil brewed. "This caught me off guard, Olivia." She smiled, that familiar, assured, understanding smile. Perhaps that is the essence of it. The dialogue progressed, yet it became evident that the atmosphere had transformed. We were more than just two old friends exchanging words. This was an entirely different experience, one I wasn't certain I was ready for. Yet it was something I couldn't ignore my curiosity about. As we completed our coffee, I sensed the heavy silence that lingered in the air between us. Uncertainty loomed over me, yet for the first time in ages, a spark of vitality coursed through my veins. A new spark ignited between us, unexpected yet undeniable. As we exited the cafe, a sense of curiosity washed over me about the potential of this unfolding journey. The days that came after that coffee felt peculiar. The image of Olivia lingered in my thoughts, refusing to fade away. The intensity of her gaze, the way her words hung in the atmosphere around us. It turned out to be more than the laid-back, amicable gathering I had anticipated. It transcended the ordinary. She was correct when she mentioned that we had changed from who we once were. Honestly, I found myself uncertain about our situation and what my next steps should be. Her words echoed in my mind, a constant refrain I couldn't shake off. Perhaps we should cease the facade that everything is simply ordinary. I wished I could express to her that I wasn't putting on an act, that I felt just as lost as she did. But the words wouldn't come. I was determined not to be the one to yield. Yet, an undeniable sense lingered within me that this was merely the start. A transformation stirred within me, triggered by that conversation. Olivia had always been a constant presence, yet I had never witnessed her in this light before. She had transcended the role of merely being Richard's mom. She was a different person entirely. A woman who unmistakably sought a deeper connection beyond mere friendship. It didn't take long for her to make contact once more. Having just wrapped up my shift, my phone buzzed unexpectedly in the dead of night. I gazed at the screen and beheld her name. Olivia. For a moment, I paused. I tried not to overanalyze it, yet I found myself unable to hold back. "Hello, Ryan." She started to convey her thoughts. "I've been reflecting deeply on our discussion. Perhaps we ought to have another conversation, face to face." I gazed at the message for a brief moment. Was she for real? She was meant to be. She was not the kind of woman to speak without intention. I inhaled deeply and responded, "When will it happen?" She replied without delay, "On the morrow. Identical location, identical moment. I will be here, patiently awaiting your arrival." I felt compelled to leave, as if there were no other option available to me. I couldn't simply overlook her presence. The way she articulated her thoughts suggested that this was more than merely a casual exchange. We had crossed a threshold, and there was no going back for either of us now. The following day, I found myself at the same cafe, anxiously anticipating Olivia's arrival. I had my uncertainties, yet one truth stood clear in my mind. Whatever unfolded next, it would transform everything. She entered a few minutes behind schedule, and the moment I spotted her crossing the threshold, a surge of excitement coursed through me. She appeared transformed once more, radiating confidence and a heightened self-awareness that I had never witnessed in her before. Her body language exuded warmth and welcome. I rose to welcome her, and we shared a quick embrace. "What's going on here?" I inquired, my tone revealing the doubt that lingered within me. Olivia smiled, yet her expression held a deeper intensity this time. "It seems we are both aware of the matter at hand, Ryan. You occupy my thoughts endlessly, and I believe you find it hard to stop thinking about me, too." My heart raced with unexpected excitement. There it stood, the topic we had both been tiptoeing around for days, perhaps even longer. She was expressing herself openly. "Enough with the charades, it's time to be real." She expressed it. I gazed at her, thoughts swirling in my head. This was occurring. I felt uncertain about my readiness, yet the thought of fleeing didn't appeal to me either. "I believe you have a valid point." I spoke deliberately, maintaining a calm tone while my heart raced within me. "Your presence has been on my mind as well." Her lips curled into a smile, a look of contentment illuminating her features. "So, what's holding us back?" I halted, sensing the gravity of the occasion. I realized I ought to step back, to let her know that this wasn't feasible for us. However, the reality was that I had no intention of stepping away. The chemistry between us had been intensifying ever since that initial message. There was no turning back now, before I could utter another word. She extended her arm over the table and grasped my hand gently. Her touch radiated warmth and assurance. It coursed through me like a sudden surge of electricity. I had to struggle to maintain my calm. "Ryan," she murmured gently, her voice barely audible. "I'm not requesting anything intricate. I'm curious to explore the possibilities ahead. I'm exhausted from acting like I don't desire this. I gazed into her eyes, perceiving the genuine emotion reflected within. It was clear to me that she was sincere in every word she spoke. She had reached her limit with the charades. She desired this. She desired me. And for the first time, I understood that I desire her as well. I'm being completely genuine too. I spoke softly, my thumb gliding gently across her hand. I desire this as well. I simply wasn't sure if you did. Olivia chuckled gently, her eyes sparkling with delight. So there you have it. We lingered in silence, the gravity of our recent confession suspended in the air around us. This silence felt distinct from before. It was neither awkward nor uncomfortable. It felt as if we were in perfect harmony, fully aligned in our thoughts. At last. We exchanged a few more words after that, but their significance had faded. The bond we shared was unmistakable at this moment, and I felt without a doubt that this was not merely a fleeting moment. We were in this together. I was completely unaware of the destination that awaited us, yet I found myself unable to halt its course. I had no desire to. When we parted ways, I was fully aware of the reality. This is merely the start. I was uncertain about the potential outcomes, yet there was one thing I was certain of. Everything had changed irrevocably. Things turned out to be more complicated than I anticipated. Days had passed since that conversation at the cafe, and each moment since felt like a delicate balancing act. Olivia and I had established our boundaries, yet what we were engaged in was not something one could simply enter without facing repercussions. The facade had finally crumbled. Retracing steps was not an option. Naturally, we kept it to ourselves. I was at a loss for how to start explaining this to Richard if it ever came to light. The idea of him discovering the truth filled me with apprehension. Our bond had always held significance, yet this felt profoundly different. Yet I couldn't ignore the connection that existed between Olivia and myself. We had crossed that threshold, and the awareness lingered between us. One afternoon, while I was working, I found a moment to ponder all of this. It was yet another extended shift, transporting passengers, collecting the familiar faces. As I navigated the bustling streets of the city, thoughts of Olivia occupied my mind incessantly. Whenever I shut my eyes, her visage appeared before me. That radiant smile of hers, her laughter, her caress. She had burrowed into my thoughts in ways I never anticipated. As I drove into a gas station to refuel, my phone suddenly malfunctioned. A message had arrived from her. I didn't even have to glance at the name. My heart raced at the sight of her name on the screen. "Hi, do you have some time this evening? Your presence has been on my mind lately. Perhaps we ought to have a deeper conversation." My heart raced with excitement. I understood the implication behind that. This was not a mere casual check-in. She yearned for something greater. I paused, sensing that all too familiar pang of doubt creeping in. Was I truly prepared to plunge into this? Was I willing to gamble it all for a possibility of something with her? Yet, I came to understand that retreat was not an option. The tension between us had only intensified, and it was futile to keep up the facade any longer. I responded promptly. "Absolutely, I'm available. Shall we arrange a meeting?" "Identical location," she replied without hesitation. "Excellent. I will arrive at 7 o'clock. A sense of nervous anticipation grew within me as I continued my shift behind the wheel. It seemed as though all the threads were converging at once. Curiosity tugged at my thoughts, leaving me to ponder the unfolding events ahead, what I was stepping into. Yet I found it impossible to overlook the thrill, the potential for something deeper with Olivia that was simply too compelling to dismiss. As I stepped into the cafe that evening, she caught my eye immediately. She occupied a corner table reminiscent of our previous encounter. This time, however, my stride was filled with certainty. I approached her directly and took a seat with a bit more urgency than I had planned, as though my legs were acting independently. Olivia's smile upon seeing me. It was more than a mere smile. It was authentic warmth. I could perceive it in her gaze. She appeared transformed this evening. She exuded a captivating energy that quickened my heartbeat. She possessed a certain aura, an essence that transformed our interaction beyond merely conversing with Richard's mom. She was an individual, in her own right, a person I longed to share my life with. "Hello," I uttered, slightly out of breath. "Hello, Ryan," she responded, inclining her body slightly forward. "I'm pleased you arrived. I definitely won't be absent." I spoke, making an effort to maintain a calm tone. "What is the true essence of this?" Olivia's gaze danced with a spark. For a fleeting instant, she appeared to waver, yet just for a fleeting moment. Then she began to speak. "It seems we are both aware of the underlying issue here. I seek deeper connections beyond mere coffee and casual conversation. I desire for us to be genuine with one another. It's time to, step into the light." I allowed her words to resonate within me. My heart raced with intensity. This was far more than a mere casual encounter. She was presenting everything, straightforward and unfiltered. Her words echoed the sentiments I had long harbored within. "I no longer wish to conceal myself," I stated, my voice barely above a whisper. "I cannot feign that this, whatever it may be, isn't genuine. I can't get you out of my mind since that day at the cafe." Her expression became gentler, and she extended her hand to touch mine. Though it was a modest act, it resonated deeply, as if it encompassed the entirety of existence. "You've been on my mind as well, Ryan. I'm indifferent to the complexities. I'm indifferent to the opinions of others. I simply desire for us to maintain honesty with one another." I nodded slowly, attempting to absorb all that she was conveying. It had evolved beyond mere attraction. It transcended that. An emotional bond had been developing between us. It was impossible to overlook. "All right," I replied, pausing for a moment. "Enough with the facade." Olivia smiled once more, her demeanor now more at ease. "Excellent, as I believe we are both worthy of this." From that point on, the dialogue unfolded effortlessly. We conversed about a myriad of topics, touching on profound matters and trivialities simultaneously. Yet beneath it all lay the unmistakable truth that we were stepping over a boundary, and we both embraced it. As the evening unfolded, I became immersed in the experience. Being with Olivia felt effortlessly natural, undeniably right, despite the lack of logic behind it. In that instant, I was fully aware of the potential dangers, yet they faded into the background, overshadowed by the urgency of the moment. The bond we shared was everything that truly counted. The unbreakable connection that blossomed between a woman and a man, each having restrained themselves for far too long. We exchanged our farewells later that night, each of us aware that circumstances had shifted once more. The subsequent course of action remained uncertain, yet the truth of our circumstances was unmistakable. We found ourselves in this moment, and retreat was not an option. Weeks had passed since Olivia and I embarked on this journey. It was a whirlwind, an unforeseen plunge into a connection that neither of us had anticipated. Yet here we stood, at the brink of an undeniable reality. I found myself parked outside, her place fixated on my phone. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the gravity of what was about to unfold. We had chosen to gather this evening, and this time, it wasn't merely for a relaxed coffee or a late-night chat. This evening, all choices had to be made. When I initially committed to this, to us, I didn't fully grasp the weight of it. There was undeniably a thrill, an excitement in the act of sneaking around, in sharing moments with someone like Olivia. A connection I never imagined I would experience. Yet now, all had changed. We couldn't linger in this uncertain space indefinitely. The atmosphere was charged, and we were acutely aware of it. With a steadying breath, I stepped out of the car. Thoughts surged through my mind, yet retreat was no longer an option. I pressed the doorbell. She opened the door a moment later, and the instant I laid eyes on her face, I realized this was the moment I had been waiting for. Olivia appeared stunning, as ever, yet this evening there was an intriguing spark in her gaze. It was more than mere longing. A certain melancholy lingered, as if she understood that the facade couldn't endure any longer. "Hey," she said, her lips curving into a gentle smile. The warmth enveloped us, yet an unspoken tension lingered just beneath the surface, a truth we had yet to voice. "Hey," I responded, stepping inside. The atmosphere surrounding us was heavy with things left unsaid. She shut the door behind me, and for a moment we both stood still. We had both exercised such caution in every aspect, shielding Richard from this reality, safeguarding ourselves from the truth. But the moment for feigning had passed. Olivia entered the living room and turned to look at me. Her gaze lingered on me, as if she were on a quest for a hint, a glimmer of hope that everything would eventually fall into place. "I believe we both understand the reason for our presence," she said gently. Her voice remained calm, yet her eyes revealed a contrasting narrative. Amidst the calm, a lingering doubt remained, despite our mutual acceptance of the circumstances. "Text, I wish to cease this," I stated, my tone quiet yet resolute. "For weeks now, Olivia, we've been weaving through shadows. This situation isn't just for either of us." She nodded with deliberation, her demeanor grave. "I understand. I've been reflecting on this quite a bit, and my intention is to avoid causing any pain, especially to Richard. However, I can no longer maintain the facade that this, whatever it may be, holds no significance. Indeed, it does. This holds significance for me. I move nearer to her. It's important to me as well, but we can't continue to conceal it indefinitely." She let out a soft sigh, her gaze drifting downward for a brief moment. As she raised her gaze to meet mine, I could perceive the determination reflected in her eyes. "Indeed," she murmured softly. "I've been reflecting on the future, and while I don't wish to cause Richard any pain, I can no longer ignore my feelings for you." "I don't want to cause him pain," I said, my voice heavy with remorse. "What unfolds after that? What are our next steps?" Olivia remained silent for what felt like an eternity. She merely gazed at me, her eyes mirroring the very uncertainty that was stirring within me. We found ourselves at a pivotal moment, each of us aware that the direction we were taking couldn't last, yet uncertain about the next steps to take. At last, she found her voice. "I believe the moment has come for me to depart. I've delayed addressing this, wishing for a return to normalcy, yet that hasn't happened. I must confront the truth within myself, and I must also be truthful with Richard." My heart plummeted. "So, you're heading out?" She gave a slight nod. "After careful consideration, I've come to the conclusion that this is the appropriate course of action. I can no longer endure this way of life, Ryan. I refuse to continue deceiving, even if it's for the sake of someone I hold dear." I was utterly astonished. I never imagined it would reach this point. We found ourselves on the brink of something genuine, something that held the promise of greatness, and yet it was eluding our grasp. I found myself murmuring, caught off guard by how it all concluded. She extended her hand, gently resting it on my arm. "I understand, and I share the same sentiment. I want to avoid causing pain to anyone, including you." She hesitated, her voice trembling just a bit. "We shared something genuine, Ryan, but at times, genuine isn't sufficient." The sight of tears glistening in her eyes struck me with an intensity I hadn't anticipated. This was more than a mere fling. It truly happened. Yet, the repercussions of it had finally reached us. We lingered for a moment, gazing into one another's eyes, the gravity of our choice pressing down around us. "I suppose this is the end," I murmured softly. "Yet, this will forever stay in my memory. Sus." Olivia smiled gently, brushing a tear from her cheek. "I will as well." And just like that, the journey we embarked on together reached its conclusion. There are no elaborate speeches, no theatrical farewells. The plain reality is that we both understood this was destined to fail. We made our efforts, yet often the desires we cherish most prove to be the most challenging to hold on to. I stepped out of her home that evening, acutely aware that I had let go of something truly precious. Yet, there was an understanding that it had indeed been genuine, if only for a fleeting instant. And that sufficed. As I settled into my car and pulled away into the darkness, a realization dawned on me. At times, the most challenging aspect isn't the farewell itself. It's recognizing that the narrative you envisioned may not conclude in the way you anticipated.